So let me tell you, like after school, you thinking I didn't pass my NCLEX.
Yeah.
Like I have the letters behind my name now. Like I'm ready. I'm ready.
Yeah.
That was the most depressing season of my life because you have to think, like, as a new nurse, most of them want you to go into it signing a 2-year contract.
Mm-hmm.
So you pretty much stuck on whatever floor, you decide to work on. But the interviewing process and application process in general was so long.
Wow.
So, like, I passed my NCLEX in September, and I started applying right after.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't start working until February.
Of the next year.
The next year.
Wow.
So imagine like you filling out all these applications and you're thinking it's going to be immediate. Like, I'm a nurse. I have the letters behind my name. Like, yeah. I'm ready. No. Humble yourself because...
Pimpin', man. This the coldest podcast you'll ever hear. The way we coming with it, people witnessing greatness. Be a part of the journey. I would say it's perfect timing, but it's God's timing. We locked in a time capsule with this one. We got timeless topics. Guess what? I'm your mother's favorite host. Your little brother's OG. I go by the name of Armand Lindsay. But the neighborhood call me Big P. I want to welcome y'all to Big Boss Talk Season 2, The Rebirth. Let's ride. And welcome to a Black Man Thing.
What's going on, everybody? It's a great Sunday in January, the last Sunday in January. Listen, we got a great episode. I feel like it's coming up. This is actually a unique episode because it's my first episode with a recommendation, right? Somebody I don't know. Everybody y'all done see me sit down with. I knew them personally. I just probably met them, but now it's somebody I really don't know. And I'm super excited to, kind of get into the conversation of just with Kimberly Smith, right? So people that don't know, Kimberly Smith is 29. She's a registered nurse, travel nurse. She went to Bethune Cookman University, bachelor's of science in nursing, BSN, and she's been doing. She has been a travel nurse or a registered nurse for 6 years now. So she has been in her field for a very long time. When you look at LinkedIn and they tell you need X amount of experience, she has it. So you don't have to worry about anything. Anything that she's telling us is going to be straight facts. You can stand on that. And so what I want to do is I want to say, Kimberly, say welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Nice
I'm happy to be here.
Good to have you. And Kimberly, this wouldn't be Big Boss Talk, the podcast, if we didn't go into the game we like to play. It's Two Truths and a Lie. Hopefully you can catch me off my A game. It's kind of hard, but we'll see what you got.
Okay. Okay, so 2 truths and a lie. Let's see. I love cruises.
Okay.
I've been a cheerleader all my life, and I have 11 siblings.
Wow. Okay, so you love cruises. You said you've been a cheerleader all your life?
Uh-huh.
And you have 11 siblings.
Yep.
That's a lot. Golly. 11. Oh, this is tough. Cruises. I'm trying to think. So the recommendation came from Corian. So Corian likes to travel. And I feel like anybody that's friends with her, like, y'all gotta travel. The only thing I'm skeptical about is the cruise, right? So some people love to travel, but they don't like cruises. So it's just like, I don't know if you get seasick. You might have like no, okay, well that's the truth. Then I'm gonna say the cruise. That's true. You've been a cheerleader all your life, and then you got 11 siblings. Oh, that's crazy. All right, I want to say the 11 siblings is a lie, and the only reason why I say that is you probably have a lot of siblings. I just don't know if it's 11.
No, I have 11 siblings.
Oh my God! So the cheerleader. What was the lie?
I don't love cruises.
You don't like cruise? Dang, that was my first. I was gonna say that. I was like, I don't think you like to travel though, right?
I do like to travel,
but it's not the cruises.
Like everybody would be like, that's not a lie.
Yeah, I knew it.
I hate it. My family loved them. Like they love them.
What you hate about them? Just the.
I guess I feel like once you've done one, you've done them all.
Yeah.
You don't have time to really explore like the place that you're going. Like you only have a couple hours and you gotta be back on the boat. Yeah. I'd rather fly to the place and actually experience it rather than. I feel like, I don't know, maybe it's just giving retired vibes.
It's
like,
just giving.
Layout.
Yeah.
That's,
Okay. I did a cruise once. I went to the Cayman Islands, and I don't mind cruises, but like you said, you don't really get a lot of time to, kind of explore. You get off the boat, and it's like you got a time frame. You got to be back by a certain time, or the boat just leaves you. I'm like, nah, that don't even sound right. You just gonna leave me out here? So it's just, I feel you on the cruises, but I ain't gonna say I hate them. I know my wife, she gets like motion sickness, so it doesn't work well with her. But I mean, it is what it is. To each his own. I definitely love to travel, but definitely not cruises. But dang, I lost. So but everybody is 7-3 right now. I was 7-2. Kimberly got me. That's what's up. So Kimberly, what I want to do is, obviously for the podcast, just tell, a little generic description about yourself, like where you're from. Tell us a little bit, about yourself.
So you already mentioned I'm 29. I just made 29 in October.
Okay.
I am actually from New Orleans, but I was raised in Atlanta.
Okay.
Let's see. Like I said, I was a cheerleader all my life. I think one of your questions on the questions that you sent me was 3 things about myself and why.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm creative. I feel like I'm genuine, and I feel like, let's see, what would be my 3rd thing? Genuine, creative, and I think that I can finally say that I'm now disciplined.
Okay.
Why
now? Why you say now?
I would say it's been something I've been trying to conquer for a long time. And being disciplined is like a process. So I wouldn't even say that I've mastered it, but I feel like I'm definitely a lot better than I was. And I say now because I chose to do a fast for 21 days.
Okay.
And I was actually able to stick to the whole thing. Like, without slipping, no that. And I was like, wow. Like, okay, girl, you can do it.
Yeah. You got it.
Really
So what type of fast was it?
I did a Daniel fast with my church. Okay. So that pretty much consists of giving up any processed foods, no meat. So pretty much like vegetables, fruit. If you're gonna make juice, they gotta be 100% like fresh, frozen. Like it can't be nothing processed or store bought. Pretty much.
No, that's wild. I don't know how you did that.
Then
it must have been a struggle.
Easy. And the first couple of days are the worst because it's like I pretty much did it like cold turkey, like just cut everything off.
Yeah.
So you start having cravings. I'm talking about. I'm like, dang, I want some turkey necks. I'm like, stuff that you're not even really thinking about. I'm like, yeah. Ain't like I'm saying I want a steak or I want some shrimp. Like, okay.
Word, man. Them fasts. I think I need help with, like, I'm focusing on discipline too, right? And my discipline is I try to stay off social media. But what I mean by that is I have the podcast social media, but it's like my personal social media. I'm not gonna post or do anything on that for like 6 months. So just to kind of sustain from just getting into the routine and just always checking it or looking for something. Because like with the podcast, I'm not really looking for nothing. It's more like I'm posting it, giving people the information, and then they go seek out whatever they need. But personal, I tried to shut that off. We've tried to do keto, and keto is one of those ones that's the first week you like, oh nah, I need something like carbs, bread. I'm about to go in the, like, it's like you addicted to something. It's just like, oh no, we need something. So I can definitely feel your pain when it talks about that discipline on the fast. But kudos to you, you made it.
Thank you. Yeah. I know it was worth it. I feel like I definitely, over each day, as the time progresses, I can even see the changes within myself.
Yeah.
So I'm like, sometimes you have to challenge who you are so you can continue to become,
Yep.
So that's how I took it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I mean, you said you was a cheerleader all your life. Were you a competitive cheerleader?
So I did both. I did competitive cheerleading, and then I also cheered for like school.
Okay.
As far as like football, basketball.
Yeah.
And I did, of course, the little leagues and stuff like that. I pretty much did every capacity. I even cheered in college.
Okay. Cool. Cheerleading is definitely. We used to like in high school when you're young. You used to be like cheerleading really ain't no sport, and then when you get older and you realize like competitive cheerleading is a sport. Listen, I was one of those guys. I'm gonna be honest. I was one of those people in high school. I was like, because all I saw was the sports side. You know what I'm saying? I didn't see the competitive side. But then once I saw a little bit of the competitive side and just really understood the sport, it was like, nah, that's a whole different ball game. Like to trust your body, go up in the air, trust other people. I'm like, I can't trust. Nah, that ain't happening. So use a flyer.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
You have to touch your bases. If you don't touch it can go wrong real quick.
Real quick. So okay, that's what's up. And then we talked that you went over Bethune Cookman. Wow. HBCU.
The only way.
The only way. This is my first time actually talking to somebody that went to Bethune Cookman. The Bethune Cookman. Tell me your decision process and why you chose to go to Bethune Cookman.
To be honest, I really did not. It was either between Bethune or FAM.
Okay.
And FAM was my first choice. So FAMU was my first choice, but I think what happened? They took too long to send everything that I needed for registration.
Uh-huh.
And I already had my stuff together for Bethune Cookman. So I'm like, I didn't want to try to work with FAM and then not like have to sit out a semester or like something crazy. So I ended up going to Cookman. And I just never left. And I had planned to go back to FAM for nursing school.
Okay.
And had the accreditation. So I'm like, I'm going to stay right where I'm at. And I don't regret it. Like, I love everybody that I've met. Cookman was like one big home away from home. Like the teachers, the professors, my coaches. All of it was literally like what I needed to get through with that whole season of my life.
Gotcha.
So,
I'm envious. I be envious of people that went to HBCUs because I went the PWI route, trying to follow this athlete dream. When I knew I should have just, I wish that's the only. If I had any regrets, that's the only thing. Is like I should have went to a HBCU. For the people listening, right? What's the best benefit of going to an HBCU for us being, Black minorities? Like why is it so important to, for kids to go back to those HBCUs?
No matter your background, I feel like it's super important to embrace HBCUs because one, the founders of those schools fought for us to even be able to have an education. Mm-hmm. That's one. Two, I also feel like community is important. Like, you can go to a PWI and there's nothing wrong with a PWI, but that sense of community, that sense of family, you don't get everywhere. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So for me, that was big.
Yeah.
And then you also get to be around literally a full environment of people that look like you. Like
you can't get that nowhere else.
You can't get it nowhere else, and I love us. So
yeah, for sure.
I don't regret it at all. Like I said, nothing's wrong with a PWI, but I just think the experiences are for sure different.
Yeah, for sure. I like you said, I don't think nothing's wrong with a PWI. I wish I had the experience in the community. Like HBCUs, they ride behind their school. Like let somebody talk trash about Bethune Cookman. You be like, hold up, you know what I'm saying? Like you don't get that nowhere else. You ain't gonna see nobody ride for no, USC because I'm from South Carolina, so I know a lot of people went to USC, Clemson.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? You don't get that type of pride. I only see it in HBCUs, and I'm like, I love that. You know what I'm saying? I'm a team guy, so I feel like any type of sense of community. But I went to a very white Christian school, so it was like 2% of us. So we had our little small group, but as far as like the whole school, the environment, you speak the same language, you ain't got to worry about how you dress or look because it's like, this is it. This is us. It's culture. Right. So, kudos to you. I wish I could have, went to Bethune Cookman, but, I'm going to jump right into it. Did you always want to be a travel nurse? Like the career that you're on right now, is that something that you always wanted to do?
So it's funny because I feel like I'm probably one of the very few who, like, as a kid said, like, oh, I want to be this when I grow up, and actually stuck with that.
Yeah.
Like, that kid. Okay. Always wanted to be a nurse. But it kind of did change, like, as I continued to grow older, like in 8th grade, I ended up having surgery, and the lady who actually did my anesthesia made me want to actually surpass nursing and go into anesthesia. Like, that's still my goal. Okay. That's like my top goal. Like, I'm working toward that now. But nursing was definitely my first choice.
First choice.
And I succeeded. It was not an easy process, but I'm here. So
I hear stories. Just people like my wife, she's a Delta, but it's a group of them, and so I know a lot of different professions. So one of the girls is a travel nurse, and I just know she always talked about how hard, like, the classes were, and just really having to buckle down and really get to where she wanted to go. So I guess for most people that's wanting to jump into this field, they really have to understand the ramifications of, like, hey, this is no joke. What you get into. A nurse, it sounds good, but then you get into the grunt work, and it's like, it makes you question, do you really want to do this? Did you ever have times when you were, going for your RN that you was like, maybe this isn't for me? Maybe you second guess yourself?
I never second guessed myself, and I think the reason why is because even when I tried to look at other career paths, I'm like, I can't even see myself doing this. Like, yeah, I don't do this. Like, there is no plan B. Like, this plan A has to happen because I don't even see myself doing nothing else. And even if I'm doing something else, it's within the medical field. And this is pretty much that stepping stone that's going to get me there. You know what I'm saying? Gotcha. So it's like, it's hard, but I'm like, Lord, I know you see every tear. I know you see me. Listen, you had to get on your knees and pray for this one. Yeah. You can't just lay down. I'm like,
Got you.
It was definitely tough.
That's
but
great.
I like I said, community is important. So, like, for us, it was a group of us.
Yeah.
And when it came down to studying, when it came down to if somebody didn't pass, like, we all stuck together to make sure that everybody made it out, and we did. So,
and is that, I guess, with the group or the process, with you guys sticking together, having that sense of community within your major, you think that's probably the best? You know what I'm saying? I just see that's how people get through these type of classes. Is that the best way to really get through the major or get through these classes? Is you need to have some type of partnering system to kind of help you, because sometimes you may not feel motivated or you may not understand the section, but you got a buddy or a friend that's like, all right, we can do this, we can get it.
I think that's one of the best ways, and I feel like that was pretty much the way that I think that my whole group got through it, because it was like, especially when you're trying to make it out and you have to take your exit exams for all of the different courses that you're in. If one didn't pass, I promise you, it was like none of us passed. We all was crying together. We all was trying to figure it out. Like, it was that bad. And it was so bad to the point that we found out we were graduating like on a Wednesday, and we were graduating the next Wednesday. That's how bad trying to get out of nursing school was.
Wow. Okay. So what's the process of getting into nursing school? Like, what does that look like for someone that they want to be a nurse, right? They know they want to be a nurse. Maybe they don't know if they want to be a travel nurse or whatever the different variations are, but they want to be a nurse. What's the first step, right? Is the first step, for one, finding a great school that's certified in that type of career? What classes should they expect to take, and the type of exams, like, what does that look like if you could tell somebody what they're about to get into if they go this route?
So I feel like each different variation of nursing has different requirements.
Okay.
So whether you're going for LPN, whether you're just going for your RN, or whether you're going for your BSN, there's different requirements. However, you have to take your prerequisites before you can get into any program. So, I mean, you're looking at doing a year or two with just prereqs, and that's like, your normal math classes, science, history,
labs,
those different things that you have to get out of the way to even qualify to apply to a nursing school.
Gotcha.
So for some people, everybody's not in the same position to be able to just go to a 4-year college or whatever, but it's no need to be discouraged. Like, you can go to community college and get your prereqs done, and then figure out which route that you want to go, whether that's LPN, RN, BSN. You can even do your RN, which is 2 years.
Got it.
At least you get that under your belt, and then you can bridge over to your BSN.
Okay.
So, for like LPNs, I think their program is like a year.
Okay.
Once they graduate, there are things that they still can't do, like assessments, certain medications. They still have to be managed by an RN.
Got it.
But it's still a stepping stone. Like you have something under your belt, and you can keep going. As far as RN, RN degree pretty much is like 2 years, and they can do everything that a BSN nurse can do except for management.
Okay, gotcha.
So BSN is basically bridging everything together. Like, you can do management, you could do pretty much everything. And then as far as you having a master's in nursing, that'll open up the doors for you to be able to teach.
Wow. Okay. So I'm new to the nursing world. So the only thing I know, I'm gonna tell you, my mom, she's an RN, right? I know that for sure. But it was at a time period, like, so my mom had me very young, 20. She didn't go to school. So, but when I was like, me and my sister were like 8 to 12 years old, she went back to school and wanted to get an RN. So it was a huge deal for her just to be able to go back and accomplish that. And so I get what you're saying about the 2 years and just being an RN, which is dope. For you wanted to be an RN. Is there any type of, I know you had to, what's the word I'm looking for? You had to go in and get certain type of hours at a certain like hospital. What clinicals? Is that?
Yeah, we have clinicals.
Got you. How does clinicals work? Do you have to have a certain amount of hours, or how does that break down?
So usually it's a little different than like going like a physician route, or if you're in school to be like an NP, because I think a lot of times they have to find their own practicum or clinical.
Okay.
Whereas like in nursing school, it was already provided for us. Gotcha. So like our school already had relationships with the hospitals within our area. And like every semester, whatever class you was in, that was pretty much what your clinicals were. So like if I was in medical surgical as a class, then I was doing that in clinicals. Okay. If I was in medical surgical 3, which is like ICU, then you were in ICU and clinicals. Gotcha. But we didn't have to do anything. Our school already set it up for us.
Oh, that's dope.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that kind of leads to my next question. Like, were the proper resources in place for you to, feel fulfilled or feel like you were on the right track, or you knew where you wanted to go? Because I talk to a lot of people on the podcast, and sometimes they feel like, and I think this is more tailored towards maybe some generic degrees, right? Where they feel like the proper resources just aren't in place, so they can really find their niche in what they want to do. So I talk to people in public health, but there's so many branches of public health that they have to really, it's trial and error to find their niche. For you, going to Bethune Cookman, being there, do you feel like Bethune provided you the proper resources to, figure out what your niche was going to be?
I think as far as finding your niche, I feel like it more so comes as you are going throughout each different clinical. Okay. Like for me, I felt like I thrive the most in women's health and pediatrics. So with kids, I didn't feel like I was working. Gotcha. And labor delivery, I didn't feel like I was working. Yeah. Everything else, I'm like, nah, this is a job. Like, this for sure a job.
Okay.
I feel like kids can do no wrong. Like, you're always compassionate.
Yeah.
You always have like a soft spot for them. A lot of people can't deal with kids, but that's just my thing.
Gotcha.
Same thing with labor and delivery. Like, being in clinicals, helping somebody deliver their child, I'm crying with them. Like,
you cry?
Yeah. So it's like, I don't think that there is really a way that somebody else can help you find your niche. That's just something that kind of comes with being in that environment.
Yeah.
So what I can say is we had a lot of adjuncts, like clinical teachers.
Okay.
That went with us to those different hospital locations and forming bonds with them who've been nurses for years. They know how to teach. Like, they were kind of helping you to dig a little deeper. Like, what do you feel like you're passionate about? Make sure when you're going into these rooms that you're really taking away as much as you can. Gotcha. And really kind of becoming a mentor in a way. Yeah. And even like, I've even met people in clinicals who had nothing to do with Cookman. And literally, I call this lady my mom now. Like,
oh my goodness,
in the public health realm.
Yeah.
And literally still talk to her daughter.
Yeah.
Like, the whole nine. So it's like you kind of create these relationships with people that kind of help you through what you can't really figure out, especially, I guess, being in an environment like Cookman kind of set it up to where we were able to have exposure to different types of people.
Gotcha.
It just made it easier for my process and figuring out what I didn't know. Yeah. So I would say a mentor is probably the best way. And then second to that, having like the community and the support system to be able to help foster you while you're actually growing through what you're trying to do in life.
Gotcha. I was about to ask you that. I was going to say, how important is it to have a mentor going through this process, or just going through your journey, being an RN, and just as you move up and go for, just different heights and just accomplish different things. I was going to ask you how important it is to have a mentor, because a lot of people just don't have a mentor. I think mentorship has been kind of one of those things that's at the bottom of the totem pole, but when you talk to the most successful people in their field, they have a person that they can call night and day. Like, hey, I'm struggling. Like, you could be crying on the phone and be like, look, I don't know what to do. And it's just saying, like you said, you're like, I met this lady. I'm talking to her daughter. You formed that bond, and I feel like that's probably that person for you. Is that, you think that's probably a big key for people, to move to continue to grow?
So. Yeah. I think it's not only a big key to getting through school and actually preparing yourself to start your career. Yeah. I think it's a great segue for you as you're building yourself through your career too. Because there's a lot of things that you don't know, and sometimes it catches you off guard, and you're like, dang, I didn't know I was supposed to do this, 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 and this. But if you have those people in your corner that's like, hey, listen, when you get to this milestone, this is what you need to do, and this is how you need to do it in order to prevent this from happening, or what may have you. So I think that a mentor is super important.
Yeah.
Super important.
So how... Go ahead. What should I say?
Not even just in your career path, but in a general sense too.
Yeah. So you have a mentor. Do you have a mentor like with work, and then you have a mentor outside or just in your personal life as well?
I do.
Okay. Good. Good. That's awesome. So what type of person you have to be a nurse? Like, what characteristics must you portray? Because people want to be a nurse a lot of times for the money that's involved, right? Because they know there's a dollar sign attached to it. But when you get into something and you really, you don't know you don't know what you don't know, and you only know once you experience it. So what type of person you have to be a nurse? Like, is it you have to be a mental strong person? Can you have a weak stomach? I don't know if you've seen things that's like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know what you've seen or what you've experienced, but what type of person do you have to be a nurse?
I feel like most importantly, I feel like you have to have a passion for service. Okay. Because that's pretty much what you're doing, is service. And if that's not your thing, then nursing is not for you. But secondly, you have to be empathetic as well, because people are coming to you for help. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that doesn't always look pretty. Mm-hmm. Sometimes people feel entitled. Sometimes people have attitudes. Sometimes people are going through stuff outside of their situation or their illness that you know nothing of.
Yeah.
So I think that being a nurse also, you have to be selfless. I feel like there were times where I walked in a room and I did feel offended or I did feel offensive. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, okay, like I'm trying to help you.
Yeah,
you know? But now, being 6 years in, it's like when you go into that room, it's not about you.
Yeah.
Feelings are at the door. You here to do what you can do for them to get them back to their optimum health, if that's even possible, or for them to be able to maintain where they are. Their attitude, stuff don't even bother me no more. I'd be like, oh, okay, well, I'll be back.
Yeah.
You know, like you just have to.
Just gotta let it. It's like you just let it rub off.
And it's not easy. It's not an easy thing because don't get me wrong. Some people would try it.
We working on discipline, right?
Discipline comes with emotions, and I'm like, I'd be like, Lord.
Man, that's crazy. Cause my mom, like I told you, she went back to school. I hear conversations like, and I got so much empathy for nurses or people in the healthcare space because I know how selfless you really have to be. Like watching my mom or hear her talk, like some of these people, especially after the pandemic, right? Or not really after, but just post COVID, the major part of it is just like. So people don't want to come into work, and then she has to go in and just fill a spot, and it's like she just got done working, 12 hours or 16 hours, but then she has to go back in and to have the mental stability to still leave your feelings at the door to go in and serve someone else. Like y'all are the most selfless people I know, and I feel like y'all, when you listen, however you control it, get your peace, you continue to do that. But for everybody listening, you hear it first. You got to be selfless. You got to be willing to serve, and you can't. There's probably is days when you want to choose yourself, but you still can't choose yourself. Even when it's like you talked about, feeling some type of way. You walk in and like, I'm trying to help you. Like I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm only trying to help you. And like you making up all this talking this crazy talk. It's like, I don't got to be here. I can leave and you can get somebody else. But I know these other nurses ain't going to look after you how I look after you. And, when you good at your job and you take pride in your job, that's how you feel. And that's just how it can come across. So that's like I said, thank you. Y'all are the most selfless people I know. What was the interview process like? What's the interview process like? If when you get it after school, you're done with all, you passed all the tests, you've done everything you need to do. Now you're looking for a job. What is that interview process like?
So let me tell you, like after school, you thinking, I didn't pass my NCLEX.
Yeah.
Like I have the letters behind my name now. Like I'm ready. I'm ready.
Yeah.
That was the most depressing season of my life because you have to think, like, as a new nurse, most of them want you to go into it signing a 2-year contract. Mm-hmm. So you pretty much stuck on whatever floor, you decide to work on. But the interviewing process and application process in general was so long.
Wow.
So, like, I passed my NCLEX in September, and I started applying right after. Mm-hmm. I didn't start working until February.
Of the next year?
The next year.
Wow.
So imagine like you filling out all these applications and you're thinking it's going to be immediate. Like I'm a nurse. I have the letters behind my name. Like I'm ready. No. Humble yourself because sometimes it don't go that quick. I literally was like, okay, well, I need money at this point.
Yeah.
I worked at Maggiano's.
To pass you over.
To pass the time. Yeah. And it wasn't until I changed my perspective that everything started happening. Like,
what do you mean by changing perspective?
So I feel like I don't want to get too spiritual, but I do feel like God makes you wait.
Yeah.
And if you don't change how you wait, you might have to wait even longer.
Gotcha.
So I feel like for me, I got to a point where it was like, I'm a nurse. this is temporary.
Right.
Like, I'm not going to be working here. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know everything's coming into.
Yeah.
So when I started going into work like that, literally the call started coming in. Like, can you interview this day? Can you do this? I'm like, oh wow! Like it was really me. You know, like maybe I was blocking my own blessings because I got an attitude because it's taking too long.
Wow,
I literally started February 2nd, 2016.
Man, you hitting on something huge. And what I mean by that, it's okay to, this is my podcast. I try to be spiritual, so you can be spiritual if you want to. But it's crazy that you say that, and I feel like, and this is why I tell people, or I try to preach, it's okay to fail, right? And I'm not saying that waiting period was a failed time, but for somebody that's graduating, right? And when you graduate, there is some form of entitlement. Like, I put in the time, I worked my butt off. Like, you can't tell me I'm not about to get this job because I just really cried over this last exam that I just had to pass, and I did it. So it's like you do get that form of entitlement. I think everybody has that. You like, I passed school, I got my degree. What's next? Let me take on the world. But then, for some reason, it's like, and this could be, a little bit with economics, but I believe it's like, some people have, God got a path for everybody. And I feel like when you have that entitlement after graduation and you like, I'm applying, and let's say 2 to 3 months go by and you still don't have a job, you got all your friends, family, people back home, social media, they know you was, went to school. What's going on? You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like for me, it was that type of pressure where it's outside pressure. Like, I never wanted to feel like I failed as far as like, I'm gonna have to go back home, or I'm gonna have to, I'm gonna have to do something different than what I really went to school for until I can, get to where I know I'm meant to be. And I feel like what you just hit on is a very humbling experience. And I think that's why you can go, when you have that type of experience, you can go into your job. Or when you got hired February 2nd, you had a whole different gratitude about even having this job. Like, look, I'm going to perform. I'm going to give you 100% because I ain't had no job for 5 months. And these checks starting, well, I ain't going to say you have a job, but the type of money you start to make is like, yeah, I'm grateful. Thank you. And so, like, and that's one of the things that when I tell people don't be scared to fail, is like, just because you don't get what you want in the beginning doesn't mean you stop trying. Doesn't mean you failed, or you're not a failure. You know what I'm saying? It's God's timing. Like, your timing ain't always like this. You know what I'm saying? And I've done many things where I thought, oh, this is gonna hit, let's go. And it's like, you got 6 months, 7 months to a year for something really take off.
Exactly.
And it's just, and you said it was one of the most depressing parts in your life. And I think when people can be more, I think if people can lose the entitlement, we teach people like, hey, just because you graduated doesn't mean you're gonna land something ASAP. I think we can help people mentally to, if they have that type of phase. I'm not gonna say you're not gonna have those type of feelings, but we can at least minimize it, and that way you can have a different outlook. Because the way you just talked about the outlook you had is like, I'm a nurse, I know somebody gonna call me, I just gotta wait my time, and once my time comes, I'm gonna answer the call and I'm gonna perform, because not only you waiting on this call, but you still got an interview. So it's another part of that, right? You've been waiting all this time, but you still got to be ready. So tell me about the preparation within those 5 months, right? You working at Maggiano's. What did you do to continue to be ready for, if somebody called you, you could be able to be prepared in that interview?
So the first job that I was able to do was like a home health job. And I basically was like, with home health, like, you have to have a nurse on board, which they go, I think it's like once a month, to assess the patient and, kind of keep up with those type of protocols for the home health business. So I started there.
Okay.
Because I'm like, I don't have any experience except for my clinicals. So trying to prepare for like interviews and stuff like that is nerve-wracking because you don't know what to expect.
Right.
And then not only that, usually in interviews, they ask you for scenarios like, well, name a time that you did this, or how are you a good leader? How can you contribute to our team? And it's like, I worked at Victoria's Secret. I worked at Maggiano's. Like, it don't have nothing to do with this. So it's like, how am I supposed to take what I've already done in my life to jumpstart my career in something that's not even remotely close to what I've done before?
Right.
But I guess what I could say is my preparation was more so in trying different avenues.
Okay.
Like I didn't really like home health, but it was a way for me to get my foot in the door. It was a way for me to start assessing patients. It was a way for me to start learning how to use the medical jargon that I've learned. Like, how do you speak to your patient? You know, do you have bedside manner? Like, really starting to jumpstart what I was going into.
Right.
So that was kind of my preparation. My mom is an EMT and a lab coordinator. So with her being accessible, like I was able to practice and allow her to ask me questions. Because she was like, most times they're going to do a panel. It's not just going to be one person. Mm-hmm. So just be prepared for that. And I think that's what really helped me to prepare for the interview process.
That's dope. That's dope. And that does, you know, most of the time when they give you those 5-star question scenarios, you know, I'd be lying. I ain't even gonna lie to you. I lied every question. Look, I ain't even had these problems. You talking about somebody offending me and what? I ain't never had that problem. So I don't know, but I can make up something on the fly. So it's like, you know, is that pretty much as far as like your first interview, right? When you did, you know, when you went into the first job you ever had, were you pretty much making up scenarios, or was it, you know, you were trying to find real scenarios but flipping it into the healthcare profession?
Honestly, so my first nursing job was at Grady Memorial Hospital. Okay. And it's crazy because every time I passed Grady, I was like, I'm going to work there.
Yeah.
Like, that's where I'm going to work. And when it finally came through, the questions they were asking me, I literally kind of took things from like clinicals that I learned.
Okay.
And I took things from my home health position. Okay. But then there were some scenarios where I didn't use the specific job, but I used the situation to kind of explain what they were asking. Gotcha. So that would be like, I'm answering you, but I'm not going to give you the
inadvertently
specifics of where this situation happened. So, I mean, you kind of tweak it to fit the interview process. Because, I mean, I'm not going to say like, oh, yeah, well, I was at Maggiano's and blah, blah, blah. Like, no, I'll take the situation and make it to what it's supposed to be.
Gotcha.
As opposed to giving like every little detail.
Gotcha. So for those people that are nervous interview takers, you heard it here first. Like, you got to tweak the scenario, right? Because that's one of the things that scares people the most is you go to school and then you got to interview, but you don't have, you know, when you have these 5-star, that's why I personally don't believe in the 5-star questions, because I could give you a fake answer right now, but you never know how somebody acts in a real situation. So it could be totally different. I could tell you like, yeah, I'm gonna, you know, talk to higher ups and we're gonna do it this way, but you never know you don't know how it's gonna go down or what. So even if they give you that type of answer, doesn't mean they're gonna react the same way. So I feel like for me, those type of questions should really need to be, I feel like, thrown out. I think it should be more tailored towards, well, tell me what, you know, if you're new, I get it. You don't have that much experience. Well, tell me about the experiences you had in college. Talk about those, you know, what you did, because those are more relatable. That's more realistic. You know what I'm saying? That's more realistic. I don't want you to, you know this person is fresh out of college. You know, like,
no, I don't have
exactly. So it's just like, let's talk about something that I do have, and then you can base if you want to hire me or not based off how I elaborate those situations. And I think that's one of those things that if I could tweak anything in the world, like it'll be the interview process, because the interview process in a whole is just shambles. But that's a whole nother podcast. But appreciate the insight on the interview, right? When you got into your field or the industry, you know, was it all about the money for you?
No, it wasn't all about the money for me. I wanted to make a difference in my patients' lives. Mm-hmm. So much so, like, some patients you have like a different connection with, and it kind of helps me to ground myself most times because every patient doesn't show their appreciation for you, but some of them do. And shoot, there's even times where it's like you could pray with a patient and you're like, dang, like we connected on a different level. That's it's different. But it was never all about the money for me. Granted, I don't feel like nurses make enough.
Gotcha.
Because it's like going from Maggiano's, I probably felt like I was able to manage that money more than the money that I get as a nurse because they take so many taxes out.
Gotcha.
Not only that, it's like you work short all the time.
Gotcha.
So you get burnt out really quick. And it's like people say, oh, you're a nurse, you make money, but
So look, now this is different because I'm under the exception, material girl, like everything I see on TikTok, you know, okay, so I'll say what I see on TikTok with travel nurses, they talk about the contracts, they talk about how much they make, you know, when they travel and stuff like that. So a lot of people, you know, what I see on TikTok, a lot of times they do, you know, kind of present like, hey, there's a lot of money to be made with being a nurse. But then here on your side of it is like, I feel like we don't get paid enough. And you probably have examples of the reason why. Can you tell me why can you bridge the gap for me, right? For somebody that's on the side of, okay, nurses, travel nurses, I feel like they make a lot of money. And then from your point of, I feel like we don't make enough. Bridge the gap because I'm not in your field of profession. So I don't know everything that you go through. So how can you explain that?
So previously, I'm speaking from being a full-time staff nurse. Okay, travel nursing is totally different. You can go into it and you can find contracts that benefit you financially. With what I'm doing now. But as a full-time staff nurse, you still have the headache. And you're still not getting paid. As a travel nurse, you still have the headache. But on Friday, my check gonna clear. Okay? But I do feel like even with that, it's almost like you're still expendable as a travel nurse. They can cancel your contract at any time. They can drop your rate at any time. And then not only that, they try to sometimes force you to be in like predicaments like right now. I was on the transplant floor. Now we have completely switched to COVID, but you're not paying me COVID rates. You get what I'm saying?
I got you.
So it's like you still have like pros and cons. And you have to pretty much negotiate your way through your contracts and what you're willing to allow.
Got it.
As a traveler. Because it's like, you know, I can get myself in walk. There's always going to be another agency that's going to pay me more, that's going to listen to me, that's going to accommodate me. So if you don't want to do that here, I can go elsewhere. And people straight up real quick when you start, okay, listen, I don't have to be here. You know what I'm saying? Like I can go somewhere else. So I think that, I mean, now we do have the autonomy to say, I want to make this and I'll show up for this. Whereas staff nurses don't have that ability. You know what I'm saying? It's a total different.
Why is that though? That's another like why. Okay, why does a travel nurse get to negotiate? I feel like if you're gonna be a travel nurse, you gotta be. I feel like you gotta have that. You gotta know how to negotiate, right? Based off what you said, because this is the rate I want to go for. I'm not having this. I can do this, right? I feel like you got to be able to negotiate. Why does a staff nurse and a travel nurse get paid totally different? I get that you guys do travel, right? But I mean, you are compensated for for traveling. Why is there a difference if y'all do the same work?
I mean, as of now, it's kind of becoming to the point where it's like, should there be a difference? You know, so it's kind of like staff nurses are like, I mean, well, I might as well leave too. You get like, so that I can at least make the money for it. Opposed to me, because it's like, okay, y'all are hiring travelers, and our staff is leaving because of this, and this. Why not fix the problem and pay us more, who are already here, who are committed to this hospital? Like you would rather pay them more to come from somewhere else when you could just pay us.
Yeah.
So it's starting to kind of like, because I mean, eventually hospitals aren't going to be able to afford to pay us what they're paying us.
Wow.
For long. You get what I'm saying? It's no way.
You don't think it's gonna last? It's not sustainable?
It's not sustainable. I mean, because eventually what's happening now is nurses are tired.
Yes.
Nobody wants to listen. So people are setting up so much outside of nursing to where they can walk away from it if they have to.
Mm.
So then what happens when there is no nurses? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because our generation is not the generation that's going to work 40 years as a nurse.
No.
Not her. And I don't want to be her. I didn't sign up to be her. So, hey.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, I mean, I'm going to ask you one question, then I'm going to go into the questions that I got from Instagram. And we can go through those very quickly. Okay. And you can just kind of give me the spill on those. I think you kind of hit on them a little bit, but just to kind of keep pushing everything forward. You talked about this generation is not the generation that's going to settle for being overworked, underpaid, when there's so many different streams of income out here outside of, what you do full time. How do you set yourself up, for that situation? Do you have different things that you have going on the side? I mean, if it's something you can't talk about, no worries. But how do you set yourself up to put yourself in position of saying like, hey, if I start to feel like this or I'm getting overworked, I know I got this right here that I can fall back on. Do you have plans or goals?
Yeah. I can't really speak too much about the platform that I'm building for nursing, but it'll be contributing to nursing.
Okay.
So I'm in the process of building something that'll be able to help. I'm going to start with nurses, but my goal is to be able to accommodate professionals on the go in general.
Okay.
So I'm building something for that to make it easier.
Okay.
But I also have my own brand. It's called Noble Melanin. So I'll be kind of relaunching soon.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much just my own personal brand, like that I'm trying to build for us, pretty much.
Yeah.
Noble Melanin is more so for women, but I also have Classic, which is for everybody.
Gotcha.
So I'm just trying to build like my brand to be something that is inclusive.
Okay.
I feel like there's a lot of things that go on within the brown community that has not been really, I would say, dealt with, I guess you could say. I feel like there's a lot of like exclusivity, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you don't look like this, or if you didn't go this path, or if you don't have this, then you're not this. So I just wanted to try to make a platform that brings a conversational piece as well. So I'll have a web series, The Girls Room. It'll be dropping soon. So that'll be bringing, like you said, the conversation to the forefront, like being able to bring different women with different perspectives and their own experiences, because I don't feel like there is a conversation piece. It's like people go on and deal with things because they feel like they're alone, or like, oh, nobody else is with this, so I'm not going to say nothing. Like I don't want to be that person.
Right.
So that's kind of like my personal passion that I'm trying to brand. Okay. And I just feel like if you follow your purpose, the money will come. So
Of course. Well, hey, cool. We love it. If there's anything, I feel like now that we've been able to sit down and talk and have a conversation, I feel like in whatever way we can support, we'll love to support. If there's any questions or anything that you need, or like I said, if there's any way I can help, please feel free to reach out, or just keep me in your mind. It just be like, hey, I remember Armand, we did this podcast. Like maybe he's a good idea, because I just want to be able to help, kind of like you said, if you find your purpose, the money will come. My purpose is being, I feel like for me, it's just like being, it was a time in my life where I felt kind of lost, or I felt like I didn't really know what I was doing, and you just feel like you're just going through life, and you don't really have a strong hold on it or a strong purpose. For one, that's when your faith kind of kicks in. Number two is just like, how can you leave a legacy behind? And that's what I'm about. I'm about leaving some form of legacy. It may not be for the world, but it could be for my kids, so they can know that, like, look, dad, he stood for this and he was going after it. And no matter if I hit the monetary value, just know that there's content out in this world that you can see, and you can see what I was about. So I think once you get everything going with Nova Melon, I think you'll have the same content or the same impact. It's just like you got a legacy behind that. It'll reach forever. So we wish nothing but the best for you. And so we're gonna go into these questions that people had on IG. It's only like a couple of them, but one of them it says, ask about nurse/doctor/administrative shortage before and during the pandemic. That's a strong question. What was that? What is the shortage like? How's that become? Is that like a major headache, or is it kind of same pains from before, but just is amplified times 10 because of COVID?
I was gonna say, so before the pandemic, I mean, you had nursing shortages, and they kind of speak on it in school, but you don't really realize it or understand it until you experience it.
Okay.
But the shortages were there before the pandemic. Do I feel like we were as burnt out before the pandemic? No. I feel like it was something that was tolerable. You knew it needed to change, but it's still like you can kind of juggle it.
Yeah.
Whereas now, especially in the beginning, we got hit with something that's like nobody even knows what to do.
Yeah.
And the longer that it's been lasting, the more people leave. The more people starting their own business. The more people aren't willing to tolerate being unheard, being unseen. Like, we're telling you what the problems are, and nobody's wanted to do anything. Like, oh, y'all worked the whole pandemic so far, I mean, with nothing. So y'all shown us y'all are the heroes, so y'all can keep doing it. And it's like, no, like, we're human. We have feelings. We have mental health. You know what I'm saying? Like, everybody can't continue to just carry everything on their shoulders. So I feel like the shortages are becoming worse because people are unwilling to tolerate the foolery that's going on.
I'm all for it. Knowing what you're worth and just knowing when you overwork. Like, I'm all for it. And I think if people continue to go down this route, it's just going to show these major companies that, look, we can't, you know what I'm saying? You can't just treat people how you want, treat people any kind of way to feed your pockets or align what you got going on. Like, I get it. You're a major corporation, is needed. But at the same time, people learning that they can do without. And they finding different ways to do it. That I feel like the pandemic showed, it unlocked the box of just everything that you can, that you could think of. It's just like people wasn't thinking before. I think people were just stuck in like, okay, I'm gonna go to work, make money, and this is how it's done. Obviously, we had entrepreneurs and things of that nature, but this generation is just like, no, there's money to be made in other different ways, and it's kind of cool to see.
America was more routine.
Yes.
But being inside, like being in quarantine and everything being shut down, it forced you to kind of dig a little bit deeper. Like, now you got to sit with yourself. Now you got to, like, who are you without your titles? Who are you without your job? Like, as a nurse, we still had to go, but a lot of people didn't have that opportunity. Right. Most people were sitting at home. So it's like, who are you without anything? You can't go nowhere. You can't hang out. You can't do nothing. So now what? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's a pill to swallow, because a lot of people don't want to sit with themselves.
Yeah, especially when you got issues at home. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's underlying issues that you was running from, going to work and coming back. It was like, oh, this is deeper than just, work. And it's like, and you make a good point. You have to really sit down with it. So I think the next question is the culture of healthcare in each region that you've traveled. So I know you talked about, are you new to like the traveling aspect of nursing, or like what's the culture like when you travel to different places? Because I know, like you said, oh, you paying this person to come in here and we've been doing this job for X, Y, and Z? Do you run into that type of animosity or that type of negativity?
All the time. So my answer usually is like, you have the same opportunities afforded that I do. For whatever reason, you're deciding or choosing to stay where you are and deal with what you're dealing with is not my problem. That's a you problem.
Yeah.
And furthermore, what I'm making has nothing to do with what I've come here to do. Right. But you do have those people who do have an attitude like, oh, give them the harder patience since they make more, or do this because, I mean, they're a traveler anyway. You know, like you have those people that are like that. And then not only that, you do have people, like there's a lot of racism within the medical community that you don't really know of until you experience it yourself. Right. And I'm not even just saying like Caucasian people, I'm saying in general, like like everybody.
Yeah.
But like right now I'm in Arkansas, and when I initially came, I was in float pool, so that means you go to whatever floor they send you to.
Okay.
But now I'm like assigned to a floor. But no matter what floor I worked on, like the people were so nice. Everybody was welcoming. Teamwork is there, like, and I feel like that kind of makes sure your job and like your job environment kind of makes the experience you have. Like, if everybody's cool, everybody's working together, like, girl, you need help? Okay, I got you. Yeah. Like, that makes
you
it like, okay.
Yeah.
It's like some of the places I worked in California was kind of like not so much, you know, like you don't really see too many of us.
You get that welcoming feel. Got you.
You see that many Black people there. You really don't, like. And it's funny because every time I'm on the East Coast, I meet so many people that's from Cali, and I'm like, well, where y'all be at when I'm there? Because I don't never see y'all. Like,
say them taxes, we gotta go.
Like, I see every other race except for, I mean, you see Black people, but I'm just saying,
not
like,
as much. Not as a majority.
You be like, oh, yeah, this is
different
majority, you know.
So this is the last question. The last question is, as far as family, being a travel nurse, you talked about being in Arkansas. You know, I'm pretty sure you travel. Is there times where you miss, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know if you have a family or, you know, what your situation may be, but do you feel like, is there a divide sometimes with work and then personal, you know, knowing that you have to travel so much?
I do. I feel like I've even lost friends because they feel like you never home, or you know, like you can't really be as present as you would like to be.
Yep.
But I also feel like for me, this, I mean, travel nursing has really helped me with a lot. It's not the best when it comes to like your sense of family or feeling connected to people.
Right.
And I'm big on that. Like, I'm big on family. So I do have my times where I was like, dang, like you sometimes feel lonely. You know what I'm saying? Like, you make friends as you go.
Right.
And I have friends that I've made over the years that I've been doing travel nursing since like 2017 that I still talk to, that I still hang with. Like, oh, meet us in Houston. Or we doing this? Are we doing that? So it's like you meet people along the way that you become family with.
Right.
But it's still nothing like being with my mom and my siblings, my dad, you know, my grandparents. Like, it's still not that feeling. Even with Corianne, it's like, I know that we've been friends since I was in like 9th grade. So for us, it's kind of like, even though we know we're on our different paths and we're working towards something, like, it's not a time I can call her. It's not a time that I can't just say, like, sis, I'm coming to your house. You know, like, it is like I'm pulling up because it's been too long or whatever. And we will connect and it won't be like we missed a beat. But I can say it does take a toll on your relationships sometimes, and even on you, because you feel like you're not connected as much as you would have been. Like, nobody's accessible. But for me, and I mean, like I said, I don't mean to be super, super overly spiritual, but like, I feel like this was my season for just me and God. Like, I had to be isolated in order to grow.
Yeah.
and to become and understand where I'm going. Because it's easy. Like when you're home, you're going with friends, you're going out to eat. It's always something. Yeah. So I feel like me being around nothing helped afford me to be able to understand, like, okay, this is where you are, this is where you're going, this is how it needs to happen. Like sometimes you need that space in between you and other people and outside influences so that you can figure you out, you know?
Yeah, you get that sense of clarity.
Right.
And so, yeah, that's crazy. I mean, yeah. So I look at, and we'll end it off like this. I look at the communities that we grow up in as like a garden to me, right? And I'm saying everybody is at some point, all of us are flowers and we're destined to grow. But at some point, certain flowers, you got weeds that grow up and the weeds can attack certain flowers. And if you stay in an environment that's full of weeds, then it starts to kind of grow on you and you feel, sometimes as a flower, like my purpose is not to be crowded by weeds and you have to take separation. You dig me out of this plant or this hole and put me in a different environment that's a little bit cleaner. I'm by myself. I'm not subject to the old habits that I used to have. It allows the flower to grow a lot more healthier and you start to cleanse a lot better. I think for me, that was one of the blessings of leaving where I was from and just going off to college, because I was like, once I left, I knew I wasn't going to come back. And so once I left, it was like, okay, people can't grab me or they can't touch me. I'm not obligated to, let's just say if I'd be like, hey man, what you doing? I'm about to pull up on you. And I know we're not doing something productive. Now I'm by myself, which I feel like for you, since you're by yourself and you travel a lot, you have more time to think internally. What do I want to do? What's my overall purpose? You have deeper thoughts than just surface level conversation, and it's always good to see people that notice that and they see that, because I'll be trying to get hopefully by just talking about certain stuff or having a bigger conversation to get older friends that you feel like you may have lost to join you. But this is where everybody says you can't bring everybody with you. And it's just like, I don't know if you ever had that sense of, remorse or, they call it survivor's remorse or whatever. I don't know if you ever deal with anything like that, but it's just, you want people to, and I always be like, when people got motion, they got something good going, your true friends will understand because they probably got something going on too. And they know what's going on. It's just like, you try to work with people and it sucks. So I don't know. You hit a word. Good Sunday word. But Kimberly, we want to thank you so much for just taking time out your day. I know we took up about a smooth little 45 an hour out of your time, and I appreciate you just blocking us out, giving us that time on your schedule. And I think this was a very impactful, meaningful conversation. I think when people listen to this, they can go from understanding what a RN is and what the different levels of just nursing, and then they can understand the good and the bad of being in the nursing field, and just understanding that nursing, is good. It's not the end all be all, but you could do so much more, a lot more. And I thank you so much. I hope you had a great time. I hope it was a good conversation. But we got to get a recommendation from you. So just one person that you feel like will be great for the show. Somebody that's dope. They got a lot going on, and just something that if somebody could hear their story or see what they're doing, somebody will be impacted by it. So give me one recommendation, and then I'll ask if you can send me like their Instagram or number. I can contact them and say, hey, Kimberly said I can hit you up. Do you mind being on the podcast?
I would have to say, this is one of my longtime friends. Well, really like a sister at this point, but her name is Cherie. She literally just graduated in May, and she started her accounting career.
Okay.
And she can tell you her own story about, the duration of time that it took to even get to this point. She also has her own business, Rosebud. So I think that she would be a really, really good, candidate for you to talk and interview.
Nope, I would love to. So we'll talk offline. I'll send you a text and say, hey, what's the information? And if you could let her know, like, hey, this guy's gonna be reaching out to you. No funny business. I know we're in a time where we're in a time where you gotta like, who is this? Who texting me? I don't play that. I don't play that. You know what I'm saying? So you gotta let people know, like, nah, he cool. So if you could do that for me, I appreciate it. But Kimberly, thank you again.
They said the intro was so hard.
Great Sunday. Enjoy
we had to give them an
the rest
outro.
of your day, and don't let them work you too hard.
I won't.
All right.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Let's
you.
keep
Have a good
rocking
one,
and
okay?
rolling.
You too.
All right, bye-bye.
Ain't nothing gonna stop us now. We here. And we back. They say, Peanut, you so cold. I want to thank you, all the bosses listening to Big Boss Talk. The people listening and watching, we love you over here.